Welcome to Our Health Inheritance. I'm Liz, and I'm here to share with you my journey through genetic counseling, genetic testing, and taking action to make sure that I have control of my health as much as possible. Where I left off on my last post was just talking about my journey through the genetic testing. So, once I knew that I was positive for BRCA2 or BRCA2, this gene mutation that was passed down to me from my mother, who passed away from breast cancer back in 1981 under the age of 40. And then, of course, her sister also was diagnosed with breast cancer under the age of 40. And then one of my cousins was also diagnosed with breast cancer under the age of 40. So this trend was happening. I knew for sure that I was going to test. When I did test and I tested positive, I already knew what I was going to do. So I immediately took action, made plans to meet with a breast surgeon and a plastic surgeon, both at UCSF, since that's where I had been doing my genetic testing and counseling. Now, in Sacramento, where I lived, there was just not the same technology. I guess it wasn't the medical support for what I was going through wasn't strong here. So I went to San Francisco because they had more advancements in in the research and whatnot. So I moved forward with planning to find a surgeon there at UCSF for two surgeons. One is the breast surgeon who does the mastectomy, and then one is the plastic surgeon who helps you with your reconstruction, because I chose to do reconstruction. You don't have to, but it is an option, and it was a choice that I made. So I was making plans to meet with them, and then my insurance company ripped the rug right out from underneath me and said, actually, no, we did approve your genetic counseling at UCSF, but you're going to have to use this surgeon for your breast surgeon and this as your plastic surgeon. So there wasn't a choice. It was, this is your guy and this is your other guy, which was a big hit emotionally because I really trusted UCSF. I was team UCSF all the way through. That's where my aunt had been treated, and learning that I had to move all of that plan over to another medical group was hard. So I made plans to meet with them. So I had a consultation with the breast surgeon, and when I met with him, I suggested, I said, hey, you're going to do this mastectomy, and it's prophylactic, so we don't know if I have breast cancer. We just know that I am removing my breast, and then we're going to send this tissue off to pathology. If it comes back that I have already been diagnosed or I already have breast cancer, then what then? Like, what's the plan? So he said, well, then we would have to move forward with either chemotherapy or radiation or a combination of those things. And I said, well, we wouldn't know then. How would we know? That's the question. How would we know if it had reached my lymph nodes? He said, well, we wouldn't know because we've already removed the breast. And I said, well, here's an idea. Could we remove that sentinel lymph node when you're doing my prophylactic bilateral mastectomy? Because then, if it does come back as cancer, we have that sentinel lymph node, which is that first lymph node that the cancer would reach. And he said, that's a good idea. And I said, well, I'd like to do that if possible, because then if it is cancer, we would know if it's reached the sentinel lymph node or not. So that was, in my mind, what the decision was. He said, good idea. And I thought, great, why did I have to come up with it? But thank you for being open to it. And fast forward to the day of my surgery, I'm laying on the operating table, and said surgeon is, basically there, present while they're getting me prepped for anesthesia and for surgery. And it dawned on me that they didn't give me the injection that would be required for them to identify the sentinel lymph nodes. You would have to inject me with some type of substance that would go through my bloodstream. It would reach the sentinel lymph node, kind of light it up so they could identify it. Excuse me. And I said, you didn't give me the injection. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, remember our conversation, my consultation? We talked about removing my sentinel lymph node. He's like, why would I do that? You don't have cancer. And I said, well, we don't know. We don't think I have cancer. So do you not remember this conversation? And I recanted it for him. And I'm literally laying on the operating table, and he's like, no, I would have never agreed to that. And I'm like, but you did. And I took notes. I have like extensive notes about this. And he just totally disregarded what I said. And I had tears pouring down my face. I'm laying on the operating table. The nurses are comforting me. They're like wiping my tears and trying to keep me calm. And he said, so what? You don't want to do the surgery then? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to wring this guy's neck. And I'm like, of course I'm going to do the surgery, but now that I'm sitting here, you're arguing with me on the operating table, and now I'm going to go into surgery, and now, do I really feel comfortable with you operating on me when you probably hate me right now? And he's like, well, what? What do you want to do? Like, just no bedside manner, no empathy. It was bad. And I just basically said, F it, do the surgery. I mean, I'm here, it's not my plan, but it was very frustrating. So I did move forward. I went into the operating room with this guy that was arguing with me on the operating table. Surgery went well. It was long. I think it was like 5.5 or 6 hours long. The plastic surgeon also came in. And what the plastic surgeon did is when, after the breast surgeon did the mastectomy and removed both breasts, nipples, tissue, everything, the plastic surgeon came in and, I don't even want to say installed, but installed my tissue expanders, which is basically this deflated kind of a balloon, but it's kind of a weird shape, but it's deflated material that they put under the muscle in where your breast would be. And so the goal is for these tissue expanders, after you heal from your surgery, they will expand them. They will basically inject them with saline and kind of gradually inflate them so that it helps to stretch your skin, so that for reconstructive purposes, we could eventually replace them, take them out and replace them with a breast implant. So that was being done because I wasn't going through chemotherapy or radiation or anything like that, because this was all prophylactic. We were able to do that surgery kind of at the same time. So they basically removed my breasts, put in the tissue expander, closed me up. They sent off all my tissue to pathology. Thankfully, by the grace of God, I had not yet developed breast cancer, so everything came back clean. That was awesome. And we moved forward with just healing. So that was something in itself. The healing process was crazy. There's a lot of stories to tell with that, but I think that will be for another day. So just to kind of give you an idea, there is twists and turns to the story. It is nothing really went as planned, as you can tell so far. So I've just continued to ride the wave. I mean, you never know. You think you know what's going to happen. You have a plan. You get derailed. But what I want to mention is being an advocate for yourself, because I will keep mentioning that. I had to be my own advocate time and time again. When the insurance company told me that I couldn't go to UCSF for the surgery like we had planned, of course I did push back and try, but essentially the insurance company won. I did have to go and use the other surgeons, and as you can hear, it didn't go all that smoothly. The other surgeon would not have been my choice. I only had him as a choice, and I would have not chose him after what I went through, but it was the only option I had. So thankfully my plastic surgeon he made up for the breast surgeon's kind of attitude. He was a very nice man. So we'll talk about recovery next, I guess. So that's it. Surgery went off. It happened. I don't want to say it went well, but surgery happened. Recovery was intense. I was in the hospital a lot longer than planned. I had, again, some complications, so we'll we'll go down that road on my next post. Thank you so much for joining our Health Inheritance. And again, I'm Liz, and just happy you're here listening. I would love to hear other stories, so please message me. Let's have an exchange of just a sharing of stories, because I know I can learn from yours